Welcome back, history enthusiasts. Before we dive into the First Punic War, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications for more content. Today, we journey back in time to an era of grand empires and epic battles. The stage is set in 264 BCE, a period brimming with power struggles and intricate political maneuvers. This video was made possible by InVideo and our supporter Jack. Now let's embark on a journey back to 264 BCE. The First Punic War didn't just happen overnight. It was born out of a growing tension between two powerful states, Rome and Carthage. This tension, simmering beneath the surface, was primed to explode into a conflict that would reshape the Mediterranean world. Rome and Carthage, two entities with vastly different cultures and strengths. Rome, a republic, was already a powerhouse on the Italian peninsula. With a disciplined military and a growing economy, Rome was eyeing expansion. Meanwhile, Carthage, a wealthy maritime power, had established an extensive trade network across the Mediterranean, with colonies stretching from modern-day Spain to the coast of North Africa. Initially, the relationship between Rome and Carthage was cordial. In fact, they even signed a series of treaties respecting each other's spheres of influence. But as Rome started expanding its reach, the balance began to tilt. Rome's ambitions were now set on Sicily, an island under Carthaginian influence and a vital link in their trade network. Sicily was more than just a strategic location, it was a symbol of power and wealth. Its fertile lands made it a granary of the Mediterranean, and whoever controlled Sicily had a significant advantage in terms of resources. So, when a dispute over Sicily arose between the two powers, it was not merely a territorial issue. It was a matter of pride, power, and survival. Rome and Carthage, each with their own reasons, were unwilling to back down. The Romans saw an opportunity to expand their influence, while Carthage was determined to protect its economic interests. The tension escalated, leading to a series of skirmishes that would eventually ignite the spark of war. And so, in 264 BCE, the stage was set for the First Punic War, a conflict that would shape the future of the Mediterranean. As the war drums began to beat, both Rome and Carthage prepared their forces, ready to fight for control of Sicily. The First Punic War, a clash of two burgeoning powers in the Mediterranean, had begun. The early stages of the war were marked by a series of battles, each a contest of wills and military might. One of the most significant was the Battle of Agrigentum. Taking place in 264 BCE, this was the first major engagement of the war. Both sides were determined to prove their mettle, and the stakes were high. The Romans, despite being outnumbered, were tenacious. They laid siege to Agrigentum, a key Carthaginian stronghold, and after several months of grueling warfare, they emerged victorious. This victory marked a key turning point in the war, demonstrating Rome's determination and ability to challenge Carthage's dominance. But Rome was not just proving its strength on land. The Romans knew that to truly challenge Carthage, they would have to meet them where they were strongest, at sea. Carthage, with its skilled navy and maritime tradition, had long held dominance in the Mediterranean. But Rome was not deterred. They set about building a fleet, drawing on their skills as engineers to innovate their way to naval proficiency. One of their key innovations was the corvus, a boarding device that allowed the Romans to engage in close combat at sea. This played to their strengths as infantrymen and leveled the playing field against the more experienced Carthaginian navy. With the corvus, Rome turned naval battles into land battles, effectively bypassing Carthage's maritime superiority. The early stages of the First Punic War were a time of trial and error, of setbacks and victories. But through it all, Rome demonstrated a remarkable ability to adapt and innovate. Despite their initial setbacks, Rome refused to back down, setting their sights on a new strategy. Rome, a land power, decided to challenge Carthage where it hurt the most, at sea. An audacious move, to say the least. Rome was not known for its maritime prowess. But the Romans, displaying their characteristic resilience and adaptability, took on the Herculean task of building a fleet. They were driven by an unyielding determination to match, if not surpass, the Carthaginian naval might. The Romans, with their inherent ingenuity, reverse-engineered a captured Carthaginian ship. They then proceeded to construct their fleet, introducing a novel boarding device called the corvus, a hinged bridge that could be dropped onto enemy ships, allowing Roman soldiers to board and engage in close-quarters combat, playing to their strengths. The stage was set for the naval Battle of Mylae in 260 BCE. Carthage, confident in its naval supremacy, expected an easy victory. But Rome had a surprise in store. The Romans, under the command of Consul Gaius Duilius, deployed their newly constructed fleet and the innovative corvus to devastating effect. The Carthaginian ships, although superior in maneuverability and speed, were ill-prepared for this new form of warfare. The Romans managed to capture or sink a substantial portion of the Carthaginian fleet, securing a decisive victory. This was more than just a military triumph. It was a psychological win. Rome had entered the domain of Carthage and emerged victorious. The Battle of Mylae was a game-changer. It shattered the myth of Carthaginian naval invincibility and boosted the morale of the Romans. The Battle of Mylae marked a turning point in the war, showing that Rome could hold its own against Carthage at sea. The Romans had demonstrated their adaptability, their resilience, and their unflinching determination. They had effectively expanded the theater of war, opening up new possibilities and strategies. This was not just a battle won, it was a new path forged in the First Punic War. Despite their victory at Mylae, the war was far from over for Rome. The tides of the First Punic War were as unpredictable as the winds of the Mediterranean, shifting back and forth between Rome and Carthage. For Rome, the taste of victory at Mylae was sweet, yet it was merely a drop in the ocean of the larger conflict. They had proven themselves a formidable naval force, but the war was far from won. It was merely the beginning of a protracted and brutal conflict that would stretch over 2 decades. As the war raged on, Rome began to set its sights beyond the shores of Sicily. The Roman Senate, emboldened by their naval triumph, embarked on a daring new strategy, an invasion of Africa. The heartland of the Carthaginian Empire was now in their crosshairs, a bold move that aimed to strike at the very core of their enemy's power. Yet, the struggle over Sicily was far from over. The island, so close to both nations, remained a strategic and symbolic prize. Its possession was a matter of pride and prestige, a testament to the naval prowess of the victor. The battle for Sicily continued to rage on, with neither side willing to concede this valuable piece of the Mediterranean. As the years rolled by, the war began to take a heavy toll. Rome and Carthage, 2 powerful empires, were locked in a bitter struggle that drained their resources and claimed the lives of thousands. The Mediterranean, once a tranquil sea of trade and prosperity, had become a battlefield. The First Punic War was not a war of swift victories or decisive battles. It was a war of attrition, of endurance, of resilience. It was a war that tested the mettle of both Rome and Carthage, forcing them to push their limits and adapt to new challenges. The First Punic War was a brutal, drawn-out conflict, with both sides suffering heavy losses. And yet, it was merely the first chapter in a saga of conflict that would span over a century. After years of bloodshed and countless battles, the First Punic War finally came to an end in 241 BCE. This war between Rome and Carthage, 2 of the greatest powers of the ancient world, had far-reaching consequences that would shape the course of history. The war's end came with the Battle of the Aegates Islands, where Rome's superior navy outmaneuvered and defeated the Carthaginian fleet. This victory marked the turning point for Rome, cementing its status as a burgeoning naval power in the Mediterranean. Carthage, on the other hand, was left in a state of financial ruin and political instability. The city was forced to pay a hefty war indemnity, which plunged it into economic hardship and social unrest. This loss and the subsequent events set the stage for the Second Punic War, which would prove to be even more brutal and devastating. The First Punic War was a defining moment in history. It was a war of firsts. The first major conflict between Rome and Carthage, the first time Rome built a large navy, and the first of 3 Punic Wars. It was a time of great change, a time when empires rose and fell, and the world as they knew it was reshaped. That's a wrap on the First Punic War, folks. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications for more content like this. And a big thank you to NVIDIA and Jack for making this video possible. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring history.